Welcome to Owner Optional, the podcast for business owners who want companies that run without them. I'm James, your host. I've been a small business consultant all across the country for about 10 years now, and I've been a small business owner myself for about 20. Together, we break down how to build real businesses, not jobs, so that they can become assets that can grow, scale, be sold, and ultimately run without you. If you want freedom, leverage, and long-term value, you're in the right place. For more information, you can visit our website at lotuspe.us. That's lotuspe.us. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the show. So today we're here, new podcast called Owner Optional, and we appreciate you being with us. And I'm here with my friend and also coworker, Nick Edwards, today. And today we're going to tell you a little bit about who we are, what we do, how we add some value, and why you should even listen to this show. So what's up, Nick?
Hey, what is going on, everybody? I'm excited to start this new podcast, excited to kind of walk everybody through what we do, who we are, and how we can help.
So my background is automotive. You know, I started as an automotive technician many years ago. 30-something years ago as an automotive technician. I started here in town in West Springfield, Mass. And I started actually working at a gas station. I grew up in a way, whatever, and I had to start working at a very young age. And so when I was like 13, 14, I started working at a gas station, literally just right around the corner from where we are right now. And my story was kind of cool because I would just work there pumping gas and like changing oil and, just kind of really bothering the technicians and learning more about the trade. And then from there, the natural progression was just to get a job as an actual automotive technician somewhere. At a young age, I became a master technician. And then from there, I ended up opening my own shop, and so we've been in business actually 20 years this year. October 4th, 2025 is 20 years. Crazy, right?
Yeah. It's a long time.
Yeah. And so the natural progression there was like, all right, so now I own this business, but it was really just me owning a job. It was me and essentially one other guy. And I realized very quickly that I was an absolute disaster at owning a business, like a total mess. And I didn't know anything about really like balancing the checkbook or KPIs or anything like that, hiring people, even necessarily like how to motivate my staff in a proper way. And so from there, I was reading like a lot of like different like shop owner magazines and stuff. And there were these magazines that really resonated with me, like Ratchet and Wrench, Shop Owner Magazine, stuff like that. And I would read these articles from this guy, Bob Cooper, and Joe Marconi specifically. And I remember after like a period of time, I was like, man, like there's no way that I can keep doing this, right? I can't depend on anybody. I kind of would join that negative argument, like, man, it's impossible to hire people because like a negative opinion is really just the easiest one to have, and so I ended up reaching out to them. And at the time, Bob Cooper had the top coaching firm in the world for independent auto repair shops. And like, I didn't go to college or anything. And so I didn't really have owning a business at that time, and so like I had to get that education. And so I ended up learning I ended up hiring them on as a business coaching firm. And they taught me a lot, They taught me a lot about business, how to run a business. And they taught me a lot about mindset, how to talk to yourself, like that negative stuff that we say to ourselves inside that we would never speak to somebody else out loud, and just ultimately help kind of like it helped motivate me. I started seeing some wins. And after a few years of like learning how to run a business and, beginning to own a business instead of owning a job by bringing in staff and creating good, strong systems and trial and error, right?
Sure.
Like we see that all the time,
right?
Yeah. Trial and error. And so after a while of working with them, I ended up becoming a coach for them, and they were the first place, the only place other than our own company that I worked as a coach. And so I began to learn a lot about shops all across the country and similarities. You can begin to learn a lot about people. And at the end of the day, what we began to realize is like there is an absence of systems and systems can be KPIs and, everything else. And so as we started to move along and I started to get more shops, one of the first things I would notice, I'm like, man, they need money, right? Like they need cash. They're in debt. they need equipment, they need money so that they can run a marketing program and begin to hire people and do all these different things that you need capital to do. And so the first thing that I would do is I'd be like, all right, well, if in theory, Nick, you're the client, I'd be like, Nick, you need to, we got to get you to go to the bank, right? We got to stop the bleeding, first of all. Like, we need to stop the bad expenses. We need to restructure our financials so it makes sense. Now, let's get you to go over to a bank, right? And let's get you a line of credit. And then from there, we'll standardize the debt, right? So it's just like, it's just an operating expense. It's a fixed amount every month, whatever it would be. And then from there, any superfluous money, we'll begin to reinvest it back into the company for lifts and better equipment, better uniforms, marketing, all of these other things that we need, so that we can begin to kind of solve some of these bigger problems. Because a lot of these people, they'd be like, man, I have no money, my staff is really no good. And, and they're genuinely good people, but they're not motivating their team in any meaningful way. And so we would begin to give them wins that way. And then, working for a coaching firm, you don't really want to recommend anybody, for marketing or anything. Like, just go find a marketing company. And then from there, we can set the expectation. After we set the expectation, then we can measure the result. And so then you'd get them a marketing company. And, when you're straightening out their financials, you'd straighten out the accounting and everything. And, you'd begin to kind of move along that way. It was a cool process, but it was a little bit clunky only because you don't have access or, say, control in some cases over what that marketing message is going to be or what that marketer's experience is and the way that they're marketing the business. One of the problems that I ran into very early on was we had a client and they were not like a call to action shop, right? And there's essentially two different types of marketing. There's brand building and then there's call to action. Brand building is we are here. This is what we do. This is a problem we solve. If you need us, you know how to get us. The second one is call to action. Hey, I want you to come in right now. I'll give you this low dollar, whatever special, $15 oil change or something like that. And what tends to happen is it kind of burns out the staff. It brings in the wrong type of customer and the business doesn't really begin to make any money so that they can pay down this debt or reinvest back into their company by following the KPIs. And so it became kind of a real problem. And then their accountant maybe didn't really know anything about auto shops. Sure. And so they're not really structuring the financials in any meaningful way that would make sense for us. And so that became a constraint of mine kind of early on with coaching.
And when you were coaching, did you find that a lot of people had third parties to do their books and do their accounting, or were a lot of people just trying to do everything in-house?
Most of them were trying to do it all in-house, right? The wife would do it, the daughter would do it, somebody would do it. And despite their best intentions, it just didn't you want the painter to come and paint the house, yeah. Right? You want the painter to come and paint the house. You could probably do it on your own, but you're going to spill a little bit and you're going to get paint on different things and whatever. And you may save some money, but at the end of the day, you're not going to get the same result as the person that does it each and every single day, right? In business, we figure, who can we get to do this that is qualified to do it? Not how do I figure out how to do it? And managing your books, and in a lot of cases, managing your marketing is not the best use of your time. Does it make sense?
Yeah. And I think, directly related to automotive, it's a very common objection in automotive, which is you tell someone, hey, your brakes are $600. And they go, I can go get the parts myself for $100 and do it in my garage. And the best objection that I give to that objection is you want someone to blame. Your time is valuable. What if you do the brakes yourself and now you have a squeak?
Yeah.
You're going back down into your garage. You're taking those wheels off. You're finding the squeak. But
that's the thing too, right? Time is a commodity, because there's only so much of it. And it is a lot easier to hold somebody else accountable to that. If you come to us and you bring your parts, there's always this kind of he said, she said, well,
sure.
You brought these parts, will you put them on? Well, where does the discussion stop, right? And so you really want, even at the base level, right? In auto repair, we won't accept a customer supplied part because we don't know what that part came from. It's difficult to warranty the part. You can't control the experience. And then insurance doesn't like it either, And so in any event, in auto repair, when the consumer comes in, you must control that experience because that way you can control the outcome. you know?
Yeah, and we can relate that back to, talking about people who do their books in-house. They do their books in-house because they don't want to pay someone to do it because it's too much money. They do their books in-house because they think they know how to do their books. And then what you find is exactly what you were talking about. People's books are wildly off. They have no idea what they're doing, and they're just trying to do this to save, $400 a month on an accountant. Well, now they've cost themselves thousands in taxes.
Thousands of dollars because they don't know where the deduction is.
Yeah.
If you've got somebody in the office, a wife or something like that, and they're used to answering the phones. Maybe she was a hairdresser. She now wants to help you out with the business. No disrespect to hairdressers or anything, but in most cases, they're not certified public accountants, and so you need somebody really in your corner to kind of structure this thing in a way that makes sense. And so when we would kind of move along with some of these clients, it might be okay that they're uploading things to QuickBooks and that wasn't necessarily the problem. But then the way they're coding things, they're losing an immense amount of money and they're taking their eye off the ball.
Yeah. And time.
The
amount of time it takes for someone who isn't a CPA to do their own books. That's time you could be spent marketing. That's time you could spend being out networking in your community. That's time you could spend doing charitable giving for your community. All that time you're taking it away because you want to do your own books.
It's another person and it's another process to really manage too, and it's tough to hold your wife accountable to something when she's trying to help you out, and so it's always hey, you ask a friend for something, you're going to wait a couple extra days for it. It might be cheaper, but at the end of the day, you should have just paid the other guy to do it. It would have been done, and so as we started to move along with that, we started to realize that while there's immense value in coaching, right? If you open a business and you've never opened a business before, I don't care how smart you are, you should get yourself a coach. Right away, get yourself a coach because you're going to learn from their failures because I don't care who the coach is. Every one of us has had an immense amount of failures, right? You learn, we call it tuition. You've paid that tuition. We're paying it all the time, sometimes less than others, but every time you try new things, you fail a little bit, right? Maybe not, but it's opportunity. It's opportunity to get better. It's not so much failure. So as we started to move along, my wife actually is a CPA, and she's also my best friend, my biggest advisor. So I go to Nick one day, and I'm we've been coaching for a while now, and it's pretty cool. And the company was beginning to change hands, and and so it was kind of time for me to go and do something different. And by this time, I had a little bit of success owning a couple of businesses, and then we had some real estate. And I was we have enough money. Maybe we should just go and start buying these companies and kind of controlling the process, just like we would with, say, a repair customer, right? We want to control the process so we can, control the outcome. And so from there, we started really kind of controlling the process with clients. We'd go out there and I'd meet a business owner and, we would have a bunch of conversations, which is awesome, one-on-one conversation. And you'd begin to figure out, well, man, we can really add some value to these people. And in a lot of cases, you're we can add so much value. We could double this company in a couple months, they're just with basic fundamentals. And so then the structure became all right, well, how do we do this, right? How do we give them our network of people? And so through the years, that has begun to evolve through trial and error of where we are at this point now where we're not a typical consultancy and we're not a typical PE firm, even though we're, our name is Lotus Private Equity. We're not typical of either one of those. What our company does now is instead of sending them to the bank and instead of sending them to an accountant and a marketer and getting them another coach, we do it all, right? And so they come into us and, again, we'll just use the analogy, Nick's Auto Repair. Nick's Auto Repair comes to us and he's hey, look, I want to sell my shop, or whatever. And in some cases we just buy them. And, in other cases we begin to work with them. And so Nick would come and he'd say, well, how much are you going to pay me for my shop? Right. Well, we can use our marketing team, right? We have a marketing company, Northbound Media. They're incredible. And Devin, she's wonderful. And so she'll go out there and she'll begin to find qualified leads, right? Through brand build type marketing and not so much call to action. So, we begin to position companies as a leader in their industry, a leader in their area. Then from there, we begin to position them as a leader in their community by getting them involved in a lot more community events and everything. Cause it feels good to give, right? Oh, yeah. All the time. And especially you always want to support your community. And then next they're going to get some inbound leads, and they're going to get more, and maybe they were understaffed a little bit. And so with us, we hire a good amount of staff. We rarely have a problem bringing in staff because we're constantly recruiting for staff. We're always looking for people. And when we're looking for people, we're not reliant on finding a super skilled person, which may be contrary to what a lot of other people do. We're looking for the right people. And so we hire based on attitude, aptitude, and ethics. And then we give them the time, tools, and training that they need to really begin to grow them and build them into something that is meaningful by obviously structured training and all of these things, and then giving them goals, right? And so one of the things that we do then is like, all right, so now, Northbound has gone out and they've gotten you the leads and they've positioned you as this industry leader, and now you're getting a lot more phone calls. And so you personally, Nick, you begin to train advisors, and we put those advisors in other businesses, or we just begin to train their staff. It just depends if they have it or they don't. And then from there, the next thing is like, well, how do they handle more work in the shop, right? And the negative argument that people typically have is like, well, I can't find good people. I can't find techs. I can't, nobody wants to work, all of this other stuff. Well, we don't have that problem because we're continuously promoting our technicians from the bottom up. It's like the cell phone argument. I've used this analogy a million times. Like, you go and you want to get a cell phone, right? And I've been with the same carrier for 20 something years, 30 years maybe, right? And so you go to them and they give you like $1,000, a new phone, and and a back rub, right? And I'm like, what the heck? I've been here forever. I paid my bill the whole time. How come I don't get anything? And so when I look at employees in any business in general, it's a relationship, And so, if we can promote them from within, it keeps them vested. It puts a lot in that emotional bank account by helping them celebrate wins and all that stuff. And that's our structure. But in any event, we use our upline techs, right? Our master techs, our solid B techs, and they begin to train people below them. Because sometimes you got a guy and he's like, man, I just don't want to do alignments anymore. Or I don't want to do multi-point inspections anymore. Whatever like the lowest common job is, the lowest skilled job is, they want to move up from that. They don't want to do that stuff anymore. And the easiest way to do that is to train somebody else to do it. And so we train internally, we promote internally, and then from there, we either take our trained staff and put it in a different building, or we use our staff that is veteran already, and we'll go into a shop and we'll begin to train a shop on just a more efficient process. And then like, how do all those departments talk together? Well, then they're going to use a different software. If like some shops that we go into and we begin to vet them, they're still like writing down handwritten receipts, and that just doesn't work anymore, and it's tough to build value in a business when everything is handwritten like that. Nobody, like a buyer, just doesn't want that because it's tough to reach out to that base and begin to like retain that base.
Let alone trying to figure out anything with customer history, because then you got to go through a filing cabinet that has 2 million pieces of paper that aren't organized at all. So, you open up day one, someone comes in and goes, you put my brakes on 2 years ago and my wheels fell off. You have no way to find that out.
No way at all. And it becomes really challenging too, because it's like, this younger generation of people that you want to bring in and you want to train and you want to stay with you a long time, like they don't even know what a card catalog is anymore, right? From like a library. Do you have experience with card catalog?
I do.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm not that young.
Yeah. So then they don't know what a card catalog is. Never mind the fact of like using a filing cabinet. Everything is online and on a computer. And then at the end of the day, if you're going to try to create a business, you want to make sure it's easy for everybody. Right? If it's like difficult to do, you have to come in and step over this thing and move around it, whatever. People aren't going to want to do it. They want to do things that are easy, and you don't want them wasting a lot of time on random things. And so like, we'll standardize their records. And then from there, we just continue to kind of coach them along. And so for us, we own our marketing, we own our coaching, we own our sales training. Like those are all companies in our portfolio that we didn't necessarily acquire. We built those people from within, and they've learned how we do it. They've learned how we've done it in other companies, and we've succeeded and failed together in a bunch of different areas. But, every time it's the cost of tuition, it's opportunity to get better. And, and through the years, we've begun to really refine this process. And so now we go into these companies and, you find these people that maybe don't have somebody to hand the company down to. They don't have the ability to sell it because it's not a sellable asset, because it doesn't produce money. Nobody is going to want to buy it. And these prices that you see sometimes are just like emotional. Well, I want $1 million for the business. Well, so don't I. You know what I mean? Right? But you have to do the work. You have to put in the work. And so now you do all these things. You create these better records. So everything talks internally, and it's nice and tied together. Accountant loves that. And then you give them the good accounting, the good structure that works for small businesses, especially auto repair shops and trades. You give them the sales, you give them the people in the shop. What makes us unique is that we don't want the credit. Mm-hmm. We don't want any credit, right? Because like if you've had Nick's Garage forever and it's a family-owned business, and all of a sudden you hire, Precision Auto Group or Lotus Private Equity Group to come in there and begin to run the company, somebody's going to be like, well, Nick, you couldn't have done it on your own. Like, it's cool growth that you've achieved, but you couldn't have done it on your own. We just come in privately. Like, we're not really looking for that. What we're looking for is the gain in our portfolio. We want, obviously, to continue to grow and, to help these people, because we typically find that where the majority of the value in the business is that a lot of these business owners that join this negative argument and they're like, well, there are no good people. They really have good people, but they know that you already have one foot out the door. You don't want to be there. Maybe you're miserable. Maybe the equipment is broken, signs are falling down, whatever it would be. And they see that, they feel that. And if they can't feel that there's growth, how do you expect that they're going to really want to continuously run to whatever that finish line is? And so what we typically work with are the business owners that are trying to go to that next level where they want to retire. And so what we do is we help you create a sellable asset, right? And an asset is something that produces cash. If I go and I invest money into a stock or, a mutual fund, right, a subset of stocks, it's going to produce me money, right?
Right.
That's it. Pretty simple. And so what happens is you have a lot of these business owners that don't own a business. They own a job still, right? And at the end of the day, no one really wants to buy your headache. If it's a headache for you right now, it's going to be a headache for me too. And so what we do here is we basically bolt our team, our systems, our everything onto your company and then give our clients the growth, right? And so after a period of time, that becomes a self-sufficient asset. And then we position that in our portfolio. And so like the way that works is like in auto repair or any business, you take your financials that have to be clean and not on paper. And, if an owner is taking too much cash, that's a problem because that a buyer is not going to want that. If you took $200,000 in cash out of the business last year, maybe that's cool for you. But the reality is cash isn't worth anything, right? It's depreciating assets, not worth anything. It used to be at least backed by the gold standard, and the government prints more cash all the time. The second thing is that like if you're not paying tax on your business, you're not showing profit. And so if you're not showing profit when a buyer comes to the table, unless you find a unicorn that is all cash and has $1 million laying around that they're going to pay you for a business, which most likely isn't going to be the case, they can't get banked for it. Like no bank, no SBA, no nothing is going to pay that amount of money or finance that amount of money for the business. It's unsellable. And so then you're left with the real estate, if you even own the real estate, and then your assets. And like your lifts are worth pennies on the dollar for what you paid for. And hopefully you have a website, right? Maybe that's worth something, and inbound calls, but you have to be able to track that. Here's how many hits I got to my website. It now creates value. Here's how many phone calls we get all of the time, right? That builds value. Here's how big our customer list in digital records, that builds value, because a guy that has $1 million in cash is probably a smart dude unless he just won the lottery.
Right.
And so if he goes and he buys your business for $1 million, he's going to want to take that cash back because he needs that liquid cash to go reinvest back into something else. And so if he goes and he buys your business for $1 million in cash, maybe that's cool today, but him, if he's a savvy investor, he has no ability to go out and like re-leverage that debt because the government in general incentivizes you to take leverage, right? They don't want you all in cash, right? If you go and you sell a property for $1 million, right? I go and I sell a property for $1 million today. Well, I only have a certain amount of time that I need to go and purchase another property. So the government knows where that money went. And it actually has to go to a special company called the 1031 exchange. Otherwise, I have to pay a massive amount of tax on that, right? Mm-hmm. And so where you can take that money is you go to the bank and you say, hey, look, I got this thing for $1 million that I own outright. It's worth this amount. It produces this amount of cash. And then you can borrow money against that. And then you can also write off the interest and everything. And so like there's a lot that goes into owning a business to kind of play the game that the government wants you to play, to continue to lower your tax liability and be able to leverage in a smart way. I don't, ever advocate for like taking a lot of leverage, but like you should have loans on good things that are assets that produce cash. And if your records aren't in place and you're not paying tax, like it's not going to be worth anything. Right. And so like when you begin to boil down the financials of a business, you're like, all right, the business did say $1.5 million last year, whatever it would be, right? Whatever Nick's Auto Repair, we'll call it. So then you boil down, you take out like the add backs, right? So like the owner's cell phone that he uses for business, but he also uses for himself, and the truck that he uses for himself, but uses for business, and like the things that he can write off that make sense, right? Without like taking too much. You add that stuff back in and you boil it down to a true number of profitability, and it's called EBITDA. If it's under $1 million, we typically use SDE, and so EBITDA is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, and SDE is like seller's discretionary earnings. Kind of the same thing, just different. Too much to get into now, but in any event, that is the true profitability of the business. And so now you say, all right, look, the guy did 1.5 and his EBITDA is say 300,000, just for easy numbers. In an auto repair shop, right, the best auto repair shop with the wind at its back, it's totally self-sufficient. The owner can leave for a week. He can leave for a month. Maybe just check in here and there, right? Because you have like a little bit of like control issues if you're a good owner, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so like now you say it's worth 300,000, and so like the bankable amount at that would be, you would add a multiplier to it. And so like this business, hypothetically, Nick's Auto Repair with the wind at its back would be an EBITDA of 4, right? Times 4, right? You get a 4 multiplier. And so that business itself, if it's totally self-sufficient with good records, good customer base, you don't have one client, Bob's electrician who has a big fleet of trucks and he's like 70% of your business, because that's a key client risk, and there's no key man risk, and there's all of these other things that you look for. But basically that it is a self-sufficient business, you get that EBITDA 4. So where it's good with us is like, and it's a little bit different, is because we have a portfolio of those really, really good wind at your back companies. And the way that we have built those is obviously by bringing in our team from the bottom, training them our way, really getting them to buy in our culture, and then just kind of moving them to other companies and other areas within our business. Like even our marketing company, she came to us from, she worked at Apple for many years, and, she did a lot of marketing on the side, and we began to kind of work with her, and she did some internal stuff for us, and we began to develop her in that way. And she's just taken off. Devin, she's incredible, and so as you begin to look at like our portfolio, if you look at it, say like it's a food pyramid, at the top is the parent company. And then below that are our marketing company, our accounting company we own. That's my wife, Nicole. She is a CPA. She is brilliant. She's got her master's. She's just absolutely brilliant. She's got another CPA with her, Jenna, a couple of bookkeepers. They manage all of our companies on top of managing external companies as well. And then we've got some of the top coaches in the country that have all been in Ratchet and Wrench. They've been keynote speakers all over. Like these guys are the real deal. And they help us coach through our shops, whether through one-on-one coaching or through like one-to-many, right? And so like we'll have like group classes once a month or once every other month or something like that, where everybody kind of joins a Zoom and they come with their problems and we begin to kind of crowdsource the answer. And that's all pretty cool too. And so now you've got these companies that supplement the other companies. And so now you're growing them all the same way with the same teams and the same systems. And they're all backed by real estate, because again, we go back to like that hypothetical investor. He goes and he wants to buy your business. There's potential that the business may fall directly on its face. Mm-hmm. And they want to make sure that it's secured by something that is a real asset, and that is dirt, right? They don't necessarily want your lease. They want the dirt. They want a building. They want doors, And so as we begin to look downline, we're looking at all of these businesses, and all of our businesses, they own the real estate that they're in, and they use the same systems and they use the same people. And there's like, we even have our own software that allows all of the businesses to talk together. And so at the end of the day, the advantage to working with us when we talk to these these shop owners that want to move their way into succession is like, look, we can bolt our company onto your company today. Yeah. Today in theory, it takes a little bit of time, right? Through lawyers and everything, right? But like we could bolt our company onto your company today, and we could show you value today. And we set targets, and we've always hit those targets. And so in doing that, right, today your business is worth that 300,000 EBITDA, but you don't get any multiplier, right? And if it's worth the 300,000 EBITDA, it's because you've got proper records and proper systems and people that can actually work there and everything. But maybe it's a really good business with really good people, but it's only dependent on you. You must be there. You're still answering phones. If you drive to the end of the street, somebody's calling you, they've got a problem, right? That is not a self-sufficient business. And so now you begin to look at all of these companies that we have, and they're all self-sufficient, right? And so like when we have problems, we have systems around how to solve the problems, and like regular meetings and employee meetings and everything, just so that we can get out in front of this stuff soon, you know, and we could solve the problem quickly. And our culture is that of like, tell us there's a problem and let's fix it. You know, you need equipment, you need something, let's fix it.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that really differentiates us from any other kind of private equity firm, which is the kind of combo of the consulting. A lot of these private equity firms, the kind of stigma around it is like a hotel. They're looking to buy your business because they want to do something else, you know,
or they just want to increase price. Yeah. That's what I've seen.
Yeah.
When I started, so when I started in private equity, I had bought a company out of the area. It was one of the first ones, and like my coaching group, they were like, "Don't buy that." You know, it's like it's out of your network. It was a plumbing company. They were like, "Don't buy that," right? Like stay in your lane, stay in your lane. I'm like, you know, I don't see how plumbing is any different than auto repair. It's the same exact thing. You're solving a problem. You're working with a customer. And you're building a relationship. And the techs are the same type A tech that you get in auto repairs, you get in plumbing and electrical and construction and all of it. And so I ended up, I purchased this company, and we built it up. It was a little too far away from me, but like one of the reasons that I bought it out of state is I was like, man, if I fail at it, like no one's at least going to see it. You know what I mean? I could just go home and no one's going to know, right? It was kind of, you know, funny that way. And so in any event, when I started working down there, I started meeting a lot of really, really cool people. And where I got the concept behind how we structure our company was through these guys. And you meet these guys and they've got like hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're like, well, we want to just build companies by doing these things called roll-ups. And one of the things that's like really good about me is like sales and building rapport. And like I can think real fast. And so I made an impression with these guys early on. And what they wanted me to do was go and build them like kind of like a super company. And so when we talk about EBITDA and the multiplier and like how to actually value a business, how hard it is determines the multiplier, right? How hard it is to get to that point in business. And so like one of the businesses that we put together was it's called a mechanical company, right? And so you need a master plumber, you need a master electrician, you need HVAC company, and you need a mechanical engineer. And then from there, you can go after these bigger commercial contracts. And so instead of doing like, you know, a few $100 sink repairs, you can now go after like $10,000 and $20,000, $100,000 contracts, if not more. These big new construction buildings and all of this other stuff. And so what my job was there was to go out and build relationships in that area, and essentially cold, because I had no network there. You know, we're from Western Mass. I have a tremendous network here, but freaking Texas, like I knew no one.
Sure.
You know, I got off the plane and everybody I knew, it was cold, you know? And so I go and I meet all these people and we begin to build something really, really cool. And then from there, I get these smaller companies, 2 people, 3 people, sometimes 5, even I think one of them was 10 people, you know, but still smaller companies and just all mom and pop companies. And I get them all at a table and we get them all to talk nice, and we figured out how to make it all work together. And they created this one kind of super company, and quickly we were able to sell off our portion of that company for putting it all together and then move on. And, that kind of gave us the structure of what we do. And so the real benefit isn't just that you get our team and you get everything, you know, you get our capital to invest back into the business, into the building, into your equipment, into your team, all of it. And then you get our team that has already trained and already done it, and we've got systems already in place. And so like day one, you literally have an easier business and you have a support system that all has a vested interest. Where the benefit is, especially for somebody that is getting ready to be at that point where they want to get into succession, They're trying to sell it for $1 million today. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Right. They're trying to sell it for $1 million today. It's not worth it. And so what we do is we come in, we stabilize it, we build it up, we create that self-sufficient company. And now say in theory, we take that hypothetical $1.5 million business that has an EBITDA of say 300,000. And if it's the best one, it has a multiplier of 4. It's worth about 1.2. Now you say in theory, we have 10 of these $1.5 million companies, all run the same way, same team, same systems, same companies, supporting them with the marketing and our accounting firm and our coaching firm with the top coaches in the world, right? And, we obviously manage the legal. We don't own that, but we have really good attorneys. And so now all these companies are all look, feel, sound, smell the same, but one still may be Nick's Auto Repair, right? But behind it is powered by Precision, right? Mm-hmm. And so the rest of them are whatever names they are, but, in most cases, Precision.
And I think that's really valuable to, anybody who's listening who may want to sell their business. Like, we're not looking to go in there and tear down all your signs and put Lotus up everywhere and kick all of your people out and do that. We're trying to do this with you.
And we want your people, and we want your help, and we want your insight, and we want you to help us nurture your relationships. But the punchline to all of this is that it's not when we do that, it's not if we do that. When we do that, your company isn't worth EBITDA 4 anymore, right? Because it'll be self-sufficient. If it were on its own, if it were by itself, it's EBITDA times 4, right? And so you say that $1.5 million company at that point is worth, say, 1.2 million. When it's packaged together in a portfolio of other companies, you begin to add, so say in theory, you've got that 10 company roster, all of them are all worth that EBITDA 300. And now all of them, because they're all packaged the same, they all run the same, they all do the same, it's EBITDA 18 to 20. It's exponentially different. It's grossly different because big buyers, these big private equity buyers, they want to buy assets. They're savvy buyers, and they want things that are going to produce cash for them. And if you have a strong culture, systems, teams, software, good records, all of that stuff, you're paying tax on the money that you're taking in, you get this monster multiplier, right? And so like your one business by itself, maybe today is worth, who knows, right? If it is doing okay, maybe 300, 400,000, right? But that's still with you there. If you could get somebody to pay that, which you probably can't, sure. Totally self-sufficient one too. All of a sudden you're in a portfolio with all these other companies. Your one company is now worth about $6 million. Literally. Yeah. You fact check it, chat GPT it, whatever you got to do. That is the way that it works. Plus your real estate, right? And so when people work with us, it's not so much just about, well, you're definitely going to do better today. You're going to have less headache. Your staff is going to be happier. You no longer have to worry about hiring, training, really doing any of that stuff, right? We need you to nurture the relationships within the business and externally. And then at the end, you're going to begin to make more money along the way. And then we all sell the whole thing together. The staff gets contracts to stay on so that everybody is taken care of. They continue to run the company, and then you properly sail off into the sunset with a monster payment because this stuff happens. And so one of the arguments that I typically hear from people is they're like, well, who is going to pay this, right? First of all, there's a lot of buyers that will pay that, right? These big private equity firms, they go after trade-based companies because it is something that is not like, it's not going to go away, right? Everywhere you go, you're stuck in traffic, right? There's cars everywhere, cars and trucks everywhere, right? And every house has a bathroom inside, right? And so like, do you think that people are going to want to stop driving cars or using the bathroom indoors?
Nope.
No, it's never going to happen. Even though cars are more complex, that's just up to us to get them the proper training and right tools, time, and training to make sure that we can keep up to date with that stuff. But that's a normal cost of doing business with any industry, And so my rebuttal to them is like, people are going to pay that because cars are not going away. And cars are going to continuously break down, especially if you're in the Northeast with all the potholes and all of this other crazy weather. It's like 8 degrees in the morning and 50 degrees in the afternoon. Like that is not good for anything to experience that temperature change. Never mind what it does to your batteries and the rubber on your car, just whatever. And so it's a really cool business model. And the more people that I meet, they're like, what do you do? Like, how do you do that? This is how we do it. Yeah, this is exactly how we do it. It's sustainable. It's ethical. We do a phenomenal, like all of our companies do a wonderful job in the community, just like charitable, this, that. Like we feel good being in the communities that we're in because they support us. And so we support them. And it's not any one person in our companies. We have these people that run these divisions, such as marketing, accounting, and coaching and everything. And then you've got the people in the stores, sales training. You know, we own our own sales training. We have all of it. And so it works really well and everybody plays really well together. It's just about finding the right owners to work with, right? Like you've got to want to come up, right? Or in some cases, when we just buy them outright, it's because they don't want to. The people are good and they're like, no, I just want to exit. Perfect. That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But the way that we grow the company doesn't change. It's just the way that we enter the deal, you know, and we prefer to go in and partner with you because it's easier, especially if you have good relationships with your team, with your vendors, and with your customers. It makes it so much easier for us to partner with you privately and begin to help you and your team experience that growth.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very similar to like what's going on in minor league baseball. For people who don't know, there's a private equity firm called Diamond Baseball Holdings, and they're trying to buy as many minor league baseball teams as they can. And when this first started happening, everybody was freaking out because they're like, oh my God, private equity's entering minor league baseball. Tickets are going to be outrageously expensive. Beer's going to be outrageously expensive. But instead of raising the price of everything, they're trying to raise the value of the industry itself. And they're buying all these minor league baseball teams to make a simple process, something that's easily duplicated, so the value of not just the Hartford Yard Goats is high, but the value of minor league baseball is high. And I think that's a lot like what we're doing. We're not trying to make Nick's Auto Repair a $10 million business. We're trying to make Nick's Auto Repair a piece of an industry that we've increased the value of exponentially.
There's a couple things too, right? It's like there's different ways to look at revenue, right? We could just start charging more to a customer, which is unethical, right? You have to charge what it's worth, right? These scanners that plug into cars cost a ton of money. These lifts, the technicians, like the technician has to get paid what they're worth because they have all of that time. The tools are expensive and their cost of living is expensive too. Just like the business's electricity costs went up, so did theirs at home. And you want them to feel comfortable. Like our job as owners of a company is to make sure that the people that work for us are enriching their life by working with us. Like it should never take away from them. You never want somebody to come in and they're like, oh, I got to go to work today. Like they should feel comfortable and happy coming in to work with us, right? And so like the customer should be comfortable and happy coming in with us too, because we are in the people business. We must attract people to us all the time and retain them, right? And so like that's employees, that's customers, and that is vendors. It's all of them. And so when we look at it that way, it's kind of cool because you have a couple ways to increase revenue, right? The typical stereotypical private equity way is like, all right, we'll just charge more, right? And so like that's not sustainable because maybe you're already overpriced for your market. Maybe you should lower your expenses, but whatever. We just assume that it's priced correctly. And so then the second is ARR, right? Annual reoccurring revenue. You want to make sure that your people are coming back. It's the same thing at the base level. It's easier to grow your company with your team if you're keeping your team and you're adding to it rather than just constantly churning staff. Same thing with customers. We go out there and we market for customers. Well, there's a cost to that. And the cost is whatever it is based on how you're marketing with your ads, your website, all of your other stuff. But you want to make sure that you're maximizing that dollar and you're keeping the ones that are there. So you're reinvesting back in to make sure that you're doing things that your customers want. Like the digital vehicle inspections, that was a cool one that came out a couple years ago. Helps us be really transparent with the customer, helps us be transparent with the whole process because no one wants to come in and get their car worked on.
Nope.
Right? No one wants to. Like no one's ever said, oh man, it's such a great thing that my car broke down today and I am going to be to work late. I can't pick up my kids and who knows how much this mechanic is going to charge me. You know, nobody has ever said that. And so you're like, all right, well, let's take away their nose, right? We do that at every level, right? And so like with a technician, you're like, hey, I need you to work on more cars. Okay, perfect. Well, I don't have cars to work on. Okay, well, that's the first constraint, right? Let's take away that no. Well, here's more cars. Well, I don't have the tool. Okay, perfect. Here's the tool. Now why can't you? Same thing with the customer. Customer's upset because they got to come in. They're not mad at us. They're just mad in general, you know? And you see them in a lot of cases at their worst, but I could say through all of our shops, we have really, really good people. That
oh,
come
yeah,
really
absolutely. And, you know, I tell every new service advisor, anytime you pick up the phone, you are picking up a phone, and on the other end of the line is someone that does not want to be calling you. You know, they don't want to tell you, hey, my brakes are making noise and now I can't get to work on time. Hey, my car didn't start this morning and now I can't take my kids to school. So when you attack it from that angle, you realize immediately the second you pick up a phone, you're offering a solution. You're not selling anything. You're offering a solution.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. You know, and so like the way we take the customer's no away is you're like, all right, what are the things that would stop them from wanting to do business with us, right? And so they come, you know, first it's a live person on the phone, not press 1 for this or press 2 or like these AI attendants. I think those are awful. Yep. And so then, you know, now that's the first constraint. Great. Now I got a real person on the phone. Awesome. And then they have to come in and it's like a nice lobby with snacks and coffee and it's comfortable for them to sit down if they have to, right? Second no taken away. Well, you know what? It's a week before Christmas, which literally it is right now as we're recording this. You know, it's a week before Christmas. My car broke. I don't have the money for this right now. I bought presents. I bought this. I bought that. You know, it's a selfless time of year. We spend money on others. Show them we appreciate them. And so when you look at it that way, you're like, all right, well, what's the constraint there? Well, they don't have the money. Great. So we offer 0%, you know, repair payment plans for like any credit type for the most part, because we've gone out and built relationships with banks. And so the next constraint is like, well, how long is it going to take? Well, we went out and we built better relationships with all of our vendors in the area to have like pretty much any part available within most days the same day, if not within a couple days, you know? And so it's just like you begin to analyze every part of the process through the customer interaction, through the technician or, you know, advisor, employee interaction, all of it. And you begin to just figure out like, why would they not want to do business with me or be around me? And you begin to kind of take that away. You know, and that is really at the heart of it, what we do and how we attract people to us, how we train, how we retain, even at the highest level where we're going out and we're acquiring companies. All right, what is your constraint? Well, I have these problems with my company. Perfect. This is how we're going to solve those problems. And for us, fortunately, it's kind of second nature because we've done it so many times, but I think that there are a lot of other good shops out there that we can definitely help. And, you know, that is the intent of this podcast, is to begin to kind of give some insight around like who we are, how we do it. And then we'll bring some people on and we'll begin to kind of, you know, dissect the process, you know, every bit of the process and show our team and show other people in the community that we work with or we're friends with and begin to kind of learn and help them solve problems right live on the show. I think it'll be really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. All the plans that we have down the road, even if you're not a business owner, like you can tune in and learn about the back end of a business. Maybe you're just an employee somewhere and, you know, you want to get into business ownership. We're going to tell you how. We're going to show you the steps that we take and the steps that other people have taken to get to where they are, whether they started working at Apple and now they own a marketing company, or, you know, you're a DoorDash driver and now you're a sales trainer. You know, we're going to show you the steps. So I think there's so much value in not just for people who are looking to get out of their business, but for people who are looking to start.
Nick, thank you so much for being here with me today. And
of course, man.
And I can't wait for the next one, man. Thanks for listening to Owner Optional. If you want to learn more how we help shop owners build businesses that don't depend on them, visit lotuspe.us. That's lotuspe.us. We'll see you in the next episode, and thank you so much for listening.